Good morning, security gang. Welcome back to the CyberHub Podcast. James Azar here, host and Chief Information Security Officer. Thank you for tuning into this morning's episode, Tuesday, December 16th, 2025. A packed show for everyone tuning in today, including SoundCloud confirming a member data breach after an outage yesterday. JLR is saying staff information was stolen during their cyber attack. France's Interior Ministry, the email accounts getting hit. And 740,000 ASCL customers' records were also taken. Pornhub getting extorted over premium activity data, plus fresh Chinese react to shell exploitation and MI6 warning shots. All of that on today's show. I mean, when we were prepping for today's show, let me tell you, we couldn't pick. We really couldn't pick. I could have done an hour show today. That's how much stuff's out there. But we're going under 15 minutes. Let's get the ball rolling. Join me for my double espresso this morning. Coffee cup cheers, y'all. Perfect. All right. Let's move to audio streaming platform SoundCloud, confirming an outage and VPN connection issues over the last few days that have led to widespread reports of people being able to access SoundCloud when connecting through VPN, 403 forbidden errors, a lot of connectivity issues that didn't make any sense. Well, now SoundCloud is disclosing that member data was stolen after suspicious activity on their internal systems. As containment kicked in, employee VPN access was temporarily disrupted to prevent further spread. Identity and third-party tokens were also the real blast radius in some of these creator platforms, with support tooling, payment partners, and even email vendors all having to deal with the outage. And again, if you're using SoundCloud as your platform, which, as a podcaster, we don't really use SoundCloud. I mean, when this podcast started, SoundCloud was our platform. 2018, we would have been down for 4 days, which would have been unacceptable. We would have had to have a backup plan. But nonetheless, this one is significant because you could be looking at targeted phishing of creators and potentially subscribers, possible payment or support account social engineering. All could happen when an attack like this takes place. We still don't know exactly what happened there. The company's response did include a configuration change that disrupted VPN connectivity, but we still don't know. A source telling Bleeping Computer that Shiny Hunters is behind it. We'll get to them here in just a few more minutes as they're trying to do an extortion on Pornhub. But again, Shiny Hunters right there, front and center. All right, if you're looking to mitigate this, you need to rotate your SSO and API keys for support, billing, and email platforms on SoundCloud. You should be enforcing phishing-resistant MFA for your staff. You should add detection for bulk exports or reporting from a CRM and help desk if you're there, and you should publish phishing tells to users so they know and are paying attention to it. Communication here is going to be critical. Jaguar Land Rover still reeling from their cyber attack, now confirming that employee-related data was exfiltrated. The manufacturing continued, but HR, payroll, and contractor details are all potentially in scope. There's elevated spear phishing here, W-2 and benefit fraud, and even union contractor targeting. You could also be looking at potential complaints and regulatory notifications across multiple regions now that this has been confirmed. With Jaguar Land Rover, again, I mean, manufacturing isn't even back up to what it was pre-breach at this point. They're still, I believe, at around 40 or 50% of pre-breach numbers. They're not expected to reach 100% until March or April of next year. So that just tells you how significant this was. We'll move to the French Ministry, Interior Minister, saying a cyber attack on email servers was disrupting the government email infrastructure. Services were restored with mitigation. Government and vendor comms latency were impacted there. The attack was detected overnight on Thursday, December 11th and Friday, December 12th. It allowed the threat actors to gain access to some document files. Officials have yet to confirm what data was stolen there. There was indeed a cyber attack, according to Interior Minister Laurent Nunez, who said that the attacker was able to access a number of files, so they implemented the usual protection procedures. It could be foreign interference. It could be people who want to challenge the authorities and show that they are capable of accessing systems. It could also be cybercrime. They know nothing, according to the minister there, That's reassuring if you're a French taxpayer. Someone accessed our Interior Ministry emails. They stole a bunch of stuff. We don't know who it is. What's the reason for it? But hey, trust us. We're competent government people who know what we're doing. Please vote for us in the next election cycle. It's not like we're incompetent. We're very, very competent people who know nothing about a cyber attack that took place. French have been on radar for a while by the Russians. On radar for a while by the Russians. The fact that this stuff still happens just blows my mind. Always. Japanese retail giant Ascol is saying 740,000 customer records were stolen in the recent cyber attack. The e-commerce and office supply firm confirmed the data theft tied to the ransomware incident that occurred last month. Personnel contact details and order context were exposed. Now, here's what they're going to have to deal with internally: refund fraud, BEC against corporate buyers, and even supplier impersonations. And so they need to be tightening down their lookalike domains. That's what I'd be doing. I'd also require MFA if I did it on all buyer portals, and it'd have to be FIDO2 MFA. I would place velocity checks on returns and redemptions, meaning I'd probably run patterns in there to see what's deviating. I'd rotate any marketplace and vendor tokens. I'd also be hunting for data staging tools like rclone, Mega, or rsync in my logs. If I'm a vendor integrated with Ascol as part of my examination to make sure I'm not there. And obviously you see here the record breakdown. Ransom House is the group behind this specific attack. So Ascol also sharing the attack diagram there. It's in Japanese. My Japanese is rusty, so I won't be able to translate it for you, but nothing AI can't do when you upload this image and say, translate it for me. And they'll give you the whole nine. So there's that there. All right, let's move to Pornhub being extorted over premium member activity data. Threat actors claiming the theft of premium user activity and attempting to extort the platform. A high likelihood of targeted blackmail and credential stuffing types of attacks, brand and legal exposure there for Pornhub. Last week, they disclosed they were impacted by a recent breach at analytics vendor Mixpanel. Mixpanel suffered a breach on November 8th after an SMS phishing attack enabled threat actors to compromise its systems. Now, the threat actors were able to get their hands on search and watch history exposed of premium users. They claim to have over 201 million records of historical search, watch, and download activity for the platform's premium members. And if those people use their real names or just with basic OC, you can find out who they are. And if those videos are potentially embarrassing in nature, you could see this actually turn really, really bad. Pornhub's going to have to deal with that one. The only thing I can tell you is your third-party vendors are just as important to your business as you are. And people who contain and process data for you, significant. You have to be able to be resilient there, and you've got to have plans in place. You can't go to the business and say have multiple analytics. It's not feasible from a cost perspective, right? But what could Pornhub do in a situation like this one? To me, that kind of boils down to just how that data is being stored and processed and accessed. And that potentially could have all of the hidden details there as of yet. We'll continue to monitor this one. I'm actually really curious about it because I think it's going to have more effects than people think. So we'll leave it there. Let's move to our next story. Google, 5 China Nexus groups are exploiting the React to Shell attack chain now. Google Threat Intel is observing multiple Chinese threat groups delivering malware via the React to Shell exploitation wave. And Brandon said of recently disclosed web app and server bugs chained to achieve remote code execution. There's rapid adoption of public POCs, which leads to mass exploitation against internet-facing apps. And any beachheads used for credential theft and long-dwell espionage would all be part of this. You need to be patching these web apps immediately. You should put admin planes behind VPN and IP allow list, add WAF and virtual patching to those endpoints, hunt for web shell indicators and newly created admin accounts and unusual outbound to rare ASNs all come into place. The React to Shell is CV 2025-55182. and it was disclosed on December 3rd. And again, 5 Chinese groups are already on this. 5, right? 13 days, 5. It just shows you how China moves at speed. They don't wait for change management. They don't wait for anything. They're out there doing the work to try to get advantage and achieve persistence. All right, we'll move to our next story here. Militant groups are experimenting with AI with the risk curve rising. Security researchers are reporting increased tinkering by militant and terror-linked actors with LLMs and off-the-shelf tooling for propaganda, phishing copy, and basic tradecraft automation, better in lures, faster targeting, and even more convincing deepfake adjacent contact. Volume goes up even if sophistication is only incremental, meaning they may not be more sophisticated, but there's so much more of it. And by the way, we saw a lot of this post the Sydney terror attack on Sunday night, as in Sunday morning in the US, Sunday night in Australia. There was so much deepfake and content being pushed out there. It was insane. It was flooded. There was so much information. The hero was Ahmad al-Ahmad, or he wasn't, or it's all a psyop, and all of this stuff. I mean, the amount of data that was going out there is significant. Someone posting on a pro-Islamic State group website last month urging other IS supporters to make AI part of their operation, saying one of the best things about AI is how easy it is to use. And again, whenever technology gets somewhere, someone is like good guys, bad guys are going to get their hands on it, right? There's just no way around it. Australia has the strictest gun laws of any country in the world, and yet father and son got their hands on guns. You can't ban guns, and now their actual response to Sydney is making it harder to get guns. Doesn't make any sense. They don't want to deal with the ideology that fuels those people to grab their weapons and go shoot people at a Hanukkah event. That's not something they want to deal with, because that's really bad for their voting base there as well. And again, you're looking at how AI is being used, and a lot of lawmakers in this article, and that's again the uneasiness of it. If you're going to put too much ownership on AI platforms, you're going to create a not ease of signing up to use AI. If they're tracking people who use AI for those reasons and then stop them, which, Anthropic and OpenAI have been very open with threat actors, but terror groups and stuff like that starts to draw a line of what you consider to be terror. And the problem with that is different administrations, different political groups in power could change those definitions, and it becomes really, really difficult. We can't agree on the definition of terror at all at anywhere. So again, just keep in mind that this is happening in play. We'll move to this story from the MI6 chief warning of the front lines are everywhere. The new MI6 chief is new in her role. This was one of her first public speeches. She's given a sharper warning on Russia's threat profile across Europe. In her public remarks, the MI6 chief underscored escalated Russian cyber and information ops pressure, including energy and transport targeting and hack and leak tactics timed to political moments. And this is, again, the Russians playing in the backyard of Europe is to be expected. They always have, they always will. Cyber warfare is part of this, and the way they're leveraging cyber warfare for kinetic warfare is also a big part of this. All of that comes into play there as well. The warning here coming of heightened risk for the UK and EU critical suppliers and any firm with public ties to policy debate. So she's putting everyone on alert there, and good for her to publicly disclose this. Nathan Osted, who's the third individual to plead guilty to the DraftKings case, is now admitting involvement in the 2022 credential stuffing spree that drained customer accounts. Account takeover remains the number one fraud driver, where MFA is optional. You could expect copycats and other consumer platforms, so you should be enforcing mandatory MFA and device risk scoring on logins, velocity and anomaly limits and withdrawals, and linked accounts and credential stuff and protections like rate limits, IP reputation, and breach password blocks all go a very, very long way there as well. As you kind of see how these attacks continue to escalate over time here. All right, let's move to our final two stories. The FBI in Anchorage is seeing a surge in law enforcement, court utility, imposter calls and texts pushing payments or harvesting OTPs. The FBI saying that it's targeting residents across Alaska, enforcement officers and government officials in an effort posing as law enforcement officers and government officials in an effort to extort money or steal sensitive personal information from unsuspecting victims. They pretend to say that someone missed jury duty or missing court appearance. There's a warrant out and they need to pay to get rid of that warrant. They're targeting people in Alaska. If you feel like something doesn't make sense, hang up. No one's going to call you and ask you for money from the government on the phone. Again, this is government. They're the most ineffective people on the planet. News yesterday of ServiceNow eyeing a $7 billion purchase of Armis is going to send shockwaves as ServiceNow really plants its flag as the next big kind of collaborator of cybersecurity in the marketplace, right? So we've seen this with Palo and Cisco and a lot of these acquisitions, but here comes ServiceNow planting a flag. They've kind of been silently. They just acquired Visa just a few months ago, just earlier this month for $1 billion, and so now $7 billion for Armis, which is a great company. Will actually plant them in the asset management space, which is what they do. So having these tools built in actually will likely have a bigger play, in the $7 billion price is probably something they can afford to pay for it in order to keep customers on their platform, which is stuff they're integrating anyways. So this could be significant for Armis. It could be significant for ServiceNow as we see a new player, ServiceNow, really stepping into the field there. So we'll see that. And again, 400 million in ARR for Armis. They raised around 435 million, over 1.17 billion in total raise. They just, I believe at Black Hat, I saw them. They had like over 300 million in ARR. Again, insane. Just good job to the team there. I mean, just really great job. I mean, this deal will, if it happens, it'll be a ripple effect in industry as more and more consolidation happens. That's it for our show this morning. We'll be back tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern with all the latest cybersecurity news. Until then, have a great rest of your day, y'all. And most importantly, stay cyber safe.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.